podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf. Know this, child. There is a truth to this world that exists in darkness. A truth locked away in the space between sanity and madness. A dark realm where nightmares are born. Stories of this realm echo throughout time, each civilization recording the horrors. And now man dismisses those legends, thinking them tales to frighten children. But the creatures of the darkness, they live! Centuries ago, the dark gods were banished to the abyss, yet their children survived the purge. Now they return to destroy the world of man. It is time, my child. Awaken your powers. Now is the age of the Sorcerer. Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but that is story or narrative behind a new game that is currently running on Kickstarter called Sorcerer, which is a dark fantasy game that melds the best elements of a strategy card game with a tactical board game. And tonight, or whenever you listen to this podcast, we're lucky enough to have on Rob Dougherty, who is actually the CEO of White Wizards Games. That's how you fit in, correct, isn't it, Rob?
Yes, it is. I'm the CEO. I also do game design, game development, and a few other things.
Cool, awesome, and thanks again for joining us on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Word is that in regards to Sorcerer, that this is the first podcast that is airing in regards to this particular Kickstarter, so we really appreciate that as well, Rob.
Oh, you're welcome.
And before I forget, I know it's a little bit late by the time this podcast airs, but happy Veterans Day from a fellow veteran as well as from all of our listeners.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so word on the street is that, let's back up a little bit. So how does somebody, it looks like you trained for, was it Special Forces or an Army Ranger? Let's see here.
No, I was, I did airborne training. I was U.S. Army, joined up when I was 17, and I did airborne training, but I was stationed with a leg unit. I was not assigned an airborne unit, despite the things my recruiter told me.
Oh boy!
But basically, when I signed up, I knew I wanted to get some skills that would be useful after I got out of the military. So I went into being a quartermaster, basically handling supplies. I figured that would be useful business skills, but I also wanted to do things that were exciting. So I signed up to be for airborne training, and my hope was that I would be a quartermaster for an airborne unit. And in airborne units, everybody jumps and everybody fights, but people have different additional jobs. I didn't quite work out that way. I successfully completed airborne training, but then I got stationed in a transportation company, which is about as far from combat unit as you can possibly get. but I worked with a bunch of great people. I had fun, was in for a few years, got out, then went to college using the GI Bill. Then Desert Storm started up. I got pulled back in. But fortunately, that ended quickly, and I was fortunate enough not to see any combat, and just got back to school, and then eventually making games.
Cool beans. And it looks like you studied electrical engineering.
Yeah, I went to Northeastern University. Studied electrical engineering. Got couple years into my engineering degree and discovered that what I really loved was the physics and the math behind it, and those in those fields. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Did I want to study that long? Did I want to do something else? And about then, this game Magic: The Gathering came out, and I wanted to collect it. But I was on a college student budget, so I started selling cards online. As far as I know, I was the first one selling cards online, and I made a bunch of money doing that. And decided to take a break from school, start a game store, and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And figuring that would tank quickly, and then I'd go back to school. But the game store took off, and I started making games on the side, and playing them with my customers. And then went into producing games and started multiple different game companies, and just kind of snowballed.
Cool beans. So word on the street is, or from what I've heard, were you like a professional player of the Magic: The Gathering?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have a bunch of really great players in my area. I was in the Boston area, Northeastern University in Boston, and when I opened up my game store, I did it in Somerville, which is a suburb. It's on the Red Line, which is the same subway that has MIT and Harvard. We were right next to Tufts University. There's lots and lots of great schools, lots of really smart people, and into Magic, and we played competitively. And I actually played in a Magic club at MIT, and we ran some little tournaments there before the Wizards of the Coast was running tournaments, and I did really well in those tournaments. And then when official tournaments started, I played in those, and myself and a bunch of other people from my store did very well on those. We got onto the Pro Tour, won a bunch of tournaments, and my business partner and game designer of Star Realms, Darwin Kastle, he's in the Magic Hall of Fame. I'm in the Magic Hall of Fame. A bunch of other people who were regular players at my store, like Dave Humpherys and Zvi Mowshowitz and such. They are in the Magic Hall of Fame as well. So we had a bunch of really high-end competitive card players that we hung out with and played with, and were part of the team. And a whole bunch of those guys are now working in the game industry. Like obviously myself and Darwin are White Wizard Games, and Dave Humpherys works at Wizards of the Coast designing Magic sets, and Justin Gary's running Stoneblade Entertainment, doing things like Ascension. So yeah, a lot of us basically got into games, and then through Magic, sort of met up with a lot of people in the industry, and then moved into careers in hobby games.
Cool beans. So you said you did the game, created games. Were those card games, or were they anything inspiration from Magic: The Gathering?
So Magic's definitely had influence on many of the games I've worked on. There are Magic influences in Star Realms, for example. The whole like player versus player and reducing your opponent's score thing that exists in Magic exists in games like Star Realms. But basically, I've been been an avid game player all my life. I've played a lot of tabletop war games, like a lot of Warhammer and others when I was younger. A lot of role playing, Dungeons and Dragons, and Hero System, and a little bit of GURPS and other other RPG systems, Aftermath and others, and also played a lot of board games, things like Axis and Allies was one of my favorites, Titan, a bunch of others. Played. Been playing all kinds of games for a long time, and I'm sure all of the games that I've loved throughout my life have little influences on me as I'm like designing and developing games. It'd be hard for them not to.
Cool beans. So I imagine you have a favorite game, but unfortunately, I don't think my fans like you to pick a game that you designed or whatnot, or a game from your company. So if you had to do that, what would be your favorite game that is not by White Wizard Games currently?
That's tough.
Oh boy.
Different games are good for different situations, but like that game had a really brilliant design and a ton of play depth. Unfortunately, it can be a very expensive game to play, but the game itself is really beautifully designed, and I spent many hours playing it. So.
Cool. Yeah, I tried to get it back into it when it first came out. My friends would, they all got into it, and then just like the same thing happened with Middle Earth role playing. As soon as I bought the stuff, they stopped playing, so I really didn't get too far into it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, no problem. And then I ended up, my wife, she's not too fond of collectible card games because she's like Pokemon. You got to catch them all or whatnot, so she's not too fond of that. So that was great with, we have Star Realms as well as the one that came out after that, Hero Realms. We actually got the one with the character decks and whatnot. And word on the street is that you guys are willing to give one of our lucky listeners a copy of Hero Realms with the character decks. Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah, that's right. Hero Realms is a really fun deck builder. It's set with the same general rules engine as Star Realms, but a whole bunch of new mechanics, including the ability to play as a specific character in the game. And we've got a wizard pack, a thief pack, a cleric pack, a ranger pack, and a fighter pack. Each one plays differently, but they're all balanced to play against each other. You can play PvP with those, and later on, if you want to, you can add the campaign set, which we have coming out, and you and your friends can play cooperatively together against the game, and go on missions, gain experience, find treasures, improve your character over time, and then go and play harder and harder missions. With the campaign set, it basically melds the categories of deck building game and role playing game. So it's very, very cool.
Cool. So we can have the same deck. Like if we play the campaign mode, we can have the same deck and like add to it, and then go back and play with that deck we've added to.
Each time you play the campaign, at the end of the game, you'll put back everything you bought from the market. So those rewards might be experience, or those rewards might be treasures you find, and those treasures that you find and the things that you buy with your experience are permanent improvements to your character. They will permanently modify your starting deck, and the things that you have in play at the beginning of the game. And you will basically level up your character. You'll become more and more powerful over time, and have more and more awesome equipment, and that will carry on with you from one game to the next.
Cool.
But of course, the bad guys will get tougher too.
Cool beans. Now, does that take a while to play? I want to say Hero Realms, we sat down and played it, me and a couple of my kids just the other day, and I want to say it was like 15 minutes to a half an hour or whatnot.
Yeah, the campaign missions are longer. It depends on your party size, and it also depends on how much table talk you like to do. Like if but it ranges from like half an hour to an hour and a half about to play through a mission, depending on number of players and how much you want to talk strategy before you make your moves and that sort of thing.
Oh, okay, cool beans. And is it any elements of like in regular Hero Realms I can go against my children? I actually ended up beating them, but yeah, I shouldn't be too much proud of that. My wife says beating a 9 and 10-year-old, but she beat me. But in the role playing game or the campaign mode, is it all cooperative or is there any?
Yeah, when you play in campaign mode, you'll all be working together. You'll all be working toward the same goal, and you'll win as a group or you'll lose as a group. And so it transforms Hero Realms into a cooperative mode. Now you can take the characters that you've been playing through the campaign, and then you can, as a separate thing, battle against each other with those leveled up characters in PvP games. But when you're actually playing the campaign, you're all working together.
Cool. Now, if somebody didn't have the initial set of Hero Realms to start on the campaign mode, would they have to buy the initial set, or does everything come in the campaign box?
To play the campaign, you need the base game, which is a $20 game. You need one character pack for each player who wants to play. The character packs are $5 each, and then you would need the campaign. The Ruin of Thandar campaign box set, which is coming out in just after Thanksgiving, that is a $20 box set. So if you have the campaign and the base game and a character pack for each player, you're good to go.
Cool beans. Now, I want to say that was on Kickstarter a while back ago, wasn't it? Because we just recently got one.
It was. So basically, that we kickstarted that game last year, and we did fulfillment in 2 waves. Wave 1 was the base game and the character packs, and that shipped out pretty quickly after the campaign ended. And then the next wave was the Ruin of Thandar campaign deck, which during the Kickstarter campaign was called the campaign starter deck. And the boss decks. And the boss decks allow you to play as a super powerful monster and take on all your friends playing regular characters. So you got a dragon and a lich boss deck. That stuff, we ended up deciding to add a ton of stuff to the campaign. Initially, the campaign was going to be a 55 card set. What we ended up shipping to Kickstarter backers was 150 regular size cards plus 8 oversized cards and 2 rule books in the campaign. So it got way more awesome. We didn't charge Kickstarter backers any additional for that, but it did take a bunch of extra time to put all that extra content together. So we just recently, in October, we shipped out that second wave to Kickstarter backers who backed at the higher level, and they got the campaign and the boss decks. And the campaign will be available in retail stores just after Thanksgiving, and the boss decks will be available in retail stores in mid-December.
Cool beans. And I think that's really cool how you guys do that. I want to say you guys do that with all your Kickstarters, where you get the Kickstarter exclusives if you back it at the higher level, as opposed to like some of these other people where they have Kickstarter exclusives that you can purchase on the side. That really helps out for people like my wife, where you got to catch them all. Do you do that with all your Kickstarters?
So we have stretch goals and Kickstarter exclusives that kick in at a certain level. For example, in the Sorcerer campaign we have going right now, $45 gets you the complete Sorcerer game and all the stretch goals. And then we occasionally have add-on content, some of which is Kickstarter exclusive, like playmats or other cool things. But it's at a pretty reasonable price level. You can get in on the Kickstarter campaigns and get a lot of cool exclusives.
Cool. And then going back to Hero Realms really quick, I wanted to thank you guys. I don't know if it was your idea or somebody else's idea, but at first I didn't like, when I first played Hero Realms, it was quite a while back ago, because I was expecting Star Realms. So my wife said I didn't like it. I got a bad memory, but then we went back and played it this last week, and I really loved it. And especially me and my kids all liked well, especially the kids, because they want to be their whatever gender they are, boy or girl. So I think that's a novel idea where you can flip it over. Because we played a lot of games where my two girls, my 4-year-old and 10-year-old, they fight over the same character because they both want to be a girl and they only have so many characters. So I think that's a great idea. Was that yours or somebody else's?
That was actually my idea. So one of the things about Hero Realms is we want the players to fill in the details about their character. We are providing sort of basic templates. So because we have these character classes as opposed to a specific character, sometimes when we make a game, we have a very specific character, like this is a particular person, and we know everything about their history, and you can play as that person. In Hero Realms, you are making the character. So basically, when we made the character pack, we had art for the characters, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if you could also choose your gender? So basically, we had artists do a male and female version for each class. And so you have your character card, which shows your class and your starting health, and it also has a picture of your character on it. And if you flip that over, it's a same class, different gender. Doesn't change the game mechanics at all, but you get to choose whether your character is male or female. And as you play the campaign, you also, when you gain experience, you choose how you spend them. And there are a bunch of different ways you can improve your skills. So your wizard who has 3 experience points could be very different from someone else's wizard with 3 experience points, depending on how you chose to spend those experience points. Not to mention which magic items you found will vary. So your characters can be very customized.
Cool. So it's kind of like a role-playing game, except I won't have to have a character sheet all filled out.
Right. We do. You can either keep the cards that you've gotten together, or we do have, or just write them down. We do have a little character sheet you can download off the internet where you can just write down what cards you've found. Or obviously you just make a note on your phone or whatever to reset your character, or you can just keep those cards together, and then there's no need for having for writing it down. You just have a little spot in your box where you keep your fighters' cards.
Cool beans. And another great thing that we loved about it, as opposed to Star Realms, not to be wrong or whatnot, because Star Realms, I want to say that was my first deck builder I ever played, and it was awesome. But we really loved what you guys did to improve on the keeping track of the hit points. That was a novel idea, I think.
Oh yeah, the scorecards. Actually, that idea came from our fan community. Like people with the 2-sided scorecards, but some of our fans made up their own little scorekeepers using cards, and there was a really clever mechanic on those, and so we incorporated that into Hero Realms, and those new scorecards will also be in the new Star Realms Frontiers set that'll be coming out next year.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to back it, but do you know when will that be coming to retail as well?
Yeah, Star Realms Frontiers will come to retail. Rough estimate, April, but could be sooner or later, depending on shipping and customs and all those other things. But Kickstarter backers will get it before then, and then a couple months later, it'll show up in retail stores.
Cool, awesome. Now, is that going to be, is that quite a bit different than the regular Star Realms that I already have?
So it has an all-new trade deck with 80 new cards. The game mechanics are the same and the factions are the same, but the trade deck is all different. But it also has 8 oversized cards, which are solo and cooperative missions, so you can play with your friends or by yourself against these various missions. So a little bit like Hero Realms, that you can play it solo or co-op, but it's not a storytelling campaign where you'll improve your character over time. It's these one these one-off missions which you which you go on, and there are there'll be 8 different ones in there. So you can either play it as a 2 to 4 player competitive game, or you can play it solo or co-op as well. And they'll all be in a nice little sturdy box like Hero Realms at $20 price point.
Okay, cool beans. And I don't know if I was talking to Sky the other day, Sky Carlisle, about Hero Realms, and I don't know if he was talking about the campaign deck or just the regular deck, but he said something about where you can play. I want to say he was talking about the regular game where you can play. You can play together co-op against a big bad boss, or you can do one player. Is that correct, or is that with the campaign mode?
That is, we have these boss decks coming out, the Dragon and the Lich. These are super cool. They're like $10 each, and they allow one player to play as a big monster. And they function very differently from each other, but they're both really powerful. So the Dragon is huge. It's got tons of health. Has a really big hand size. Really big starting deck. Has some very powerful cards in his starting deck, like Dragon's Fire and bites and claw attacks, tail slashes that hit areas. All kinds of really cool stuff in that deck. And one player plays the Dragon, and 2 to 5 players play regular characters fighting against the Dragon. So you can have 2, 3, 4, or 5 opponents. And the Lich also plays against 2 to 5 regular players. The Lich has a multiple decks. He's got a regular deck. He's got a Grimoire, which is a book of summonings that where he can summon various undead monsters, and then he also has a little deck of soul jars. And when you're playing the Lich, you get one. You shuffle up your soul jar deck, and you get 1 soul jar for each opponent you're playing against. And at the beginning of the game, you flip over your first soul jar, tells you how much health the Lich has, and a special magical ability the Lich has. All right. So, and you can also play these 2 giant monster decks against each other. So you can do Dragon versus Lich as well, if you'd like.
Oh, okay, so maybe that's what he was doing. Cool. And if I want to say on top of the campaign deck that we just got, there was 2 packs. I haven't looked at the packs very much, but would those be the 2 boss decks?
Those are the 2 boss decks. Yep. You got your Dragon and your Lich.
Cool beans. Now, before we get on to the main meat of what's going on with your Kickstarter and whatnot, while we're talking, do you mind thinking of some kind of question that we can answer? We'll have you ask at the end of the end of the podcast episode, and then you can send me the answer, and we'll have people go ahead and they can email us over at gamerleaf@gamerleafgo.com, and we'll take. The first person who answers it correctly will get that copy of Hero Realms as well as the character packs. Does that sound okay to you, Rob?
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay, awesome, cool beans. So the word on the street is you guys have a new game on Kickstarter called Sorcerer. What can you tell us about Sorcerer, Rob?
So Sorcerer is a dark fantasy game. It's set in Victorian London. And the players are all bad guys. Sorcerer, descended from a dark god who has really evil magic and horrifying minions that things like vampires and zombies and such that that you can summon up. And these sorcerers are battling for control of the mortal realm. And this battle is taking place in the most powerful city in the world at the time, which is London. You have a really cool meld of elements of a strategy card game with elements of a tactical board game. Basically, at the beginning of the game, each player will create a sorcerer by choosing one deck from each of 3 categories. We have character decks, which show who you are, and we have lineage decks, which tell you what kind of magic you have. It tells you which dark god you are descended from and the type of magic that you control based on that. And then finally, you have a lineage deck, which is where you've been training and where you have minions and followers. So you take these 3 decks, you shuffle them together, and that becomes your deck for the game. And each deck also comes with a skill card that you place in front of you, and the skill card has each skill card has a special ability. So each time you play, you'll have 3 different special abilities and a unique blend of cards in your deck. And this blend of cards has really cool interactions that are different for every one of these combinations. So with the base game alone, there's 4 of each of these categories of deck combinations. And then with expansions, that number grows. There are 2 additional character decks, 2 additional domain decks, and 2 additional lineage decks available in the Kickstarter campaign, which if you decide to get those expansions, that brings you to hundreds of possible combinations that you can have for your sorcerer at the beginning of the game. Then as you're playing the game, you have 2 phases. You've got an action phase where players go back and forth taking actions, and you can use your actions to draw cards. You can use your actions to gain energy. You can use your actions to play spells, which will reduce your energy and have an effect. You can also play minions. So you have these minion cards, and when you and those also cost energy to play. And when you play a minion, you place it on one of 3 different battlefields. So these 3 different battlefields represent different parts of London, and minions can only use their abilities and fight in the battlefield that you place them in. So there's a big tactical element deciding where to place your guys. And then you can also use an action to move minions or your sorcerer himself from one battlefield to another. You have a avatar standee, which represents you, the sorcerer, and while you can't be hurt or killed, you do direct your forces in whatever battlefield you place your avatar in, and those special abilities that you have from your special ability cards you can use in whichever battlefield you place your sorcerer in. Then once players have used up all their actions, you start with 6 actions each turn. Once players have gone back and forth using up those 6 actions, you go on to the battle phase, and in the battle phase, you go from one battlefield to the next, and in each battlefield, you resolve combat, and you go back and forth with the players, each one choosing a minion in turn to attack with. And when you attack with a minion, you roll dice equal to the minion's combat value. And these are custom dice, which have some sides are misses, some sides are hits, some sides are double hits, and we even have a critical hit that you can roll. And so you'll roll dice equal to the combat value of your minions, and then to wherever they want their opponent's minions, specific minions, or to the battlefield itself. And then the defending player assigns all the regular damage, and that can again be assigned to minions or to the battlefield itself. If a minion takes damage equal to its defense, it dies. Damage sticks around, so we have little damage counters we put on minions when they take damage. So damage can last from turn to turn. And if you can do 12 points of damage to your opponent's side of the battlefield, you'll win that battlefield. You flip the battlefield over, and it shows a ruined side of that portion of the city. You put one of your control markers on your side of that battlefield, and if you can win 2 out of the 3 battlefields, you win the game. So there's a lot of really cool elements, deck creation, action management, and combat rolling dice. So it's very, very fun.
Cool beans, and I know the art. I really love the art of the game. It is pretty dark, but it's
It is very dark. So this is not one you want to play with your 5-year-old, but it is but it is gorgeous. Like the world. If you go to the Kickstarter page, you can see the art. There's backstory on every one of those 12 decks I talked about, where you have the character decks, the lineage decks, and the domain decks. There's a story behind each one of those decks, including the 6 additional expansion decks, and beautiful art on each one of these, and really gorgeous graphic design as well. The game has this great feel to it. Like I said, it is a horror setting, so.
cool beans. So, were you leading up to this all along when you initially start out with Star Realms and then going to the fantasy and then going? Were you guys initially trying to? Were you leading up to a board game and being dark, or it just come along?
I've done a bunch of different games over time. I've done tabletop war games. I've done board games. I've done card games. And White Wizard Games is no different. We're gonna make games that we think are awesome for people. Sorcerer is a game that is it's actually our first game that's not designed by Darwin or I. Sorcerer is a game that was designed by Peter Scholtz, who is from Slovakia. I met him at Essen Game Fair, this giant game fair in Germany, a couple years ago, and at the time, Star Realms had been out for a little while. It was pretty successful. We had a booth at the show, and a lot of people would come up and basically pitch game ideas to me because we were a successful publisher, and we were very busy. We were making our own games. I wasn't particularly interested in looking at outside submissions. So when Peter came up to me and pitched this game idea, I was about to tell him, "Oh, sorry, we're not taking game submissions right now." But he started laying some components out on the table, and they were gorgeous. The art was just stunning, and really great graphic design, even for a prototype. And I asked him who his artist was, and he said that he had done a bunch of the artwork. So I told him, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to meet with you and check the game out," thinking that I probably wouldn't be interested in the game, but man, did I want to hire him as an artist, because this was great. I met I started. So we teamed up. I started working with him on game development. Giving ideas to sort of tweak the game a little bit. Darwin started working with him on art direction to sort of bring the already gorgeous artwork to the next level. So this game has been in progress for a very long time. Peter was working on it for years before he brought it to White Wizard Games, and then White Wizard Games has been working on it for a couple years since then. So there's a reason why there's so much depth and everything looks so awesome in the game. It's been worked on for quite a while.
So since you guys took over with it and working with Peter, I imagine you guys did quite a bit of playtesting as well. During the playtesting phase, was there ever anything that you guys just had to scrap because it wouldn't work?
Oh, sure. So basically, that's very that happens all the time in development. It doesn't matter who designs the game. Basically, when you design a game, it's about the concept and the general mechanics, and you're trying to create something that's fun. Then you go to the development process where you refine things down and you make sure things are fair. You'll end up scrapping some mechanics, maybe adding others. Peter had done a lot of design and development on Sorcerer and had a lot of playtesters by the time it was brought on board. But for new mechanics, various ways to implement them. Some card balancing. So one of the great things about having Darwin and myself available is for development stuff is we've played games at super competitive levels. Like the Magic Pro Tour is very, it's basically only competitive play. Like when players playing at that level are only concerned with victory and will come up with the craziest combinations to make the game as unfair in their favor as possible. So we're able to think about games from a fun and casual perspective, but we're also able to think about games from a hyper competitive angle, and so we're able to balance games so to make sure that they're fair even when you approach them from a very competitive angle as well. So there were a few cards that we that we were like, okay, these guys have to go. They're not and others that needed some changes, but the game itself and just an awesome piece of work by Peter, and he has continued to be lead on the project. So he is now a member of White Wizard Games. He's part of the company. He leads our European division, and he has led a European team of artists and play testers on the Sorcerer project this whole time. So he's been doing amazing work.
Cool, Bean. So was he persistent at all, or he just threw that art on the table and then you knew?
Well, when he threw the art on the table, I knew I wanted to talk to him. But when we played the game, then I could see how much passion he had for the project, like how much backstory he had and how much thought he had put into each element, which is always great. But the game mechanics itself, really fun, some really great concepts. So it was. So basically, as soon as I played the game as a whole, I knew it was something that I was interested in, and basically, I had to talk to the rest of the team, decide whether it was something that we would want to do as a project for White Wizard Games. But either way, I was happy to talk to Peter and give him some ideas and help him along. It's just such a cool looking game. It deserved to exist as a product. But yeah, super happy to have Peter on board as a member of White Wizard Games and to be coming out with Sorcerer. It's been a long time in the making, but we're thrilled with it. It's just a really gorgeous game, and we were demoing it at Spiel this year in October, and with prototypes, and people were loving the game. And normally when you demo a game, especially one that takes a while to play, people will try it out, get an idea of what the game's like, and then move on to something else because they're at a big trade show and there's a million things to see. Mm-hmm. But like practically everybody to the finish, and that was really cool to see.
Cool. Now maybe people are wondering, that first time when you played Peter, did you beat him?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
There you go. Cool.
We'll go with yes on that one.
There you go. Yeah, he's not here to back himself up, so there we go. Cool. Now, per se, somebody's fallen asleep. They were listening to the podcast, but they've fallen asleep. It wouldn't be because of you or your game. It'd probably be because they're sick of listening to my podcast, as I tend to put out quite a bit. But now they're suddenly jolted awake so they don't hit the oncoming traffic. Why should they take a chance on Sorcerer, especially when they have all these other great games out there on Kickstarter, Rob?
Again, it's the combination of the great gameplay, the amazing artwork, and the rich world. At White Wizard Games, we're very picky about the games we put out. They have to be awesome. Like, it's possible that a game might not be your style, might not be right for you, but it's gonna be a good game if we're bothering to put it out. And there's a playthrough video on the Kickstarter that you can check out, so you can watch the game, decide if it's your kind of game. If it is your kind of game, you're gonna love it, because there's a lot of work, hard work, and love went into the creation of this game. So it's just the game. The game is a work of art. You've got to see it.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Just looking at the Kickstarter page and whatnot. Now I know, from what I heard, you guys were having issues with getting the prototypes, but when they come out and whatnot, do you know which notable reviewers might be reviewing this game or showcasing it for us?
Usually, with our games, a ton of reviewers do it. I don't have a list of who's on deck for doing reviews of Sorcerer.
Okay.
But I'm confident there will be a ton, because there's a ton of reviews out there for basically every game we've done. So I'm confident Sorcerer will be in the same category. So you'll be able to see a lot of reviews online once the game's out in retail.
Okay, but in the meantime, they can just check out that how to play video that you have on the Kickstarter page.
Basically, Darwin and I played through an entire game from start to finish, filmed the entire thing, and we did some post editing on it. So, for example, when we're talking about a card for the first time, you can see a large version of the card, so you could pause the video and read the card. And so basically, you can see an entire game being played, see all the mechanics, and we were playing with a prototype but a complete set. So you'll be able to tell whether it's the type of game for you by watching that playthrough video.
Okay, cool beans. And somebody listening to this, when do they have until? I know you want the sooner the better, but when do they have until to back this project?
The Kickstarter ends on December 7th at 10 p.m. Eastern. If you wanna get Sorcerer early and get those cool Kickstarter extras, you've got till December 7th to make it happen.
Okay, cool beans. And I know you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but when do you anticipate, if somebody backs this on Kickstarter, when do you anticipate they might get the actual Sorcerer in their hands?
So our estimated delivery date is June, so it'd be a few months later for actually hitting retail stores. So fall for if you don't back on the Kickstarter and you buy the game in a retail store, you'd be looking at fall 2018. And if you do back the Kickstarter, you're looking at getting your copy in the mail in June.
And I saw something really cool. It looks like, I know they should take a chance on Kickstarter. They should go ahead and back the Kickstarter for sure. But if they get it at retail or not, the Kickstarter, what they'll get is the exclusives will be Kickstarter. That art will be exclusive or whatnot. So that art will never come, they might be able to get that same part of the game, but it'll have different art. Is that correct?
So, yeah, our policy on exclusives, we want gamers to be able to play our games. So we do make exclusive content art for Gen Con or Spiel or something, but those exclusive items will always be down the road a couple years later, be remade with new artwork and packaged in something you can buy at your retail store. So if you miss out on the Kickstarter or you miss out on a special tournament or whatever, and you miss out on an exclusive card, you don't have to go to eBay and buy it for some insane amount of money from somebody else. You can wait, and eventually we'll put those promos together and put it with new artwork and put it out for general sale. Now, the original versions will always be identifiable as the exclusives by their original artwork, so they'll still be collectible and cool. But it's not like you'll never be able to get those game mechanics if you don't do that special thing to get those cards. So if you do back to Kickstarter, you get a bunch of Kickstarter exclusives. So you'll get them early. You'll have them a year or two before other people have access to them, and you'll have the special original art versions of them. But eventually, other people will be able to buy new art versions of those in their retail store.
Okay, cool. Cool beans, that's awesome. And so for sure, so either way you'll get those game components or whatnot. And now I think I can officially say this. So you've heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. That's awesome. Now, Rob, I don't know if you've listened to any of our podcasts or whatnot, but the next section is actually called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an application, whether it be for tablet, cell phone, or computer, or even video game. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on board gaming or whatnot. A while back ago, we had somebody who did a travel app. We had somebody who did a where you can take your dog on vacation with you. We also had somebody that did an application that you can take a picture of anything and it'll tell you whether it's a hot dog or not. Is there any kind of application that you use a lot of?
Well, I mean, obviously we have like the Star Realms app, which I play constantly. But if are you talking about stuff that's not made by my company?
It can be, but we can talk. It's just an application that you use a lot of. We can talk about the Star Realms app if you'd like.
Well, I mean, yeah. So basically, Star Realms, there's a digital app for it. You can download it free and try the game out. The app's won a bunch of awards. You can play versus the AI, and you can also play through a little campaign, all for free. And if you like it, you can spend $5 to upgrade, and then you get to play against the medium and hard AI, and the hard AI is really hard. You can also play more campaign missions, and you can play against people anywhere in the world online. You can challenge your friends individually, or you can just get random games versus people from around the world. And there's a ranking system, and it's cross-platform. So if you get it on Steam on your PC, you can then download it on your Apple phone or your Android phone, and then log in using your username and password, and then hit the Restore Purchases button, and everything that you've bought for the game in the on Steam will automatically be on your phone, or vice versa. You can start a game versus someone on your computer, and then you gotta go, so you get up and you get on the bus, and then you can continue your game on your phone. You can play asynchronously, and then you have 48 hours to take each turn, or you can play live games where you've got a minute or so to take each turn, depending on what style of game you want to play. And I've played thousands of games of Star Realms on this app, and many people have as well. So that's probably my most used app on my phone. For stuff that I don't make, I do really like some of the stuff that Supercell does. I play a lot of their Clash Royale game on my phone. I think the primary use is probably a pretty boring one, which is the maps. But there's I do like some of the barcode scanner stuff. Where you can be in a store and scan a barcode on an item, and it can tell you how much that item is online and how much it is in nearby stores. That's kind of nifty non-game app.
Cool beans. So you were saying on the Star Realms app that because we got it on the iOS or the Apple, so yeah, we bought it on my wife's iPad. But you're saying that I could go ahead and play that on my Android phone and restore our purchases as well?
Download, go to the Android store and download Star Realms.
Okay.
And then when you log in, use the same username and password that you use on the iPad for Star Realms. So just log into your Star Realms account on your Android phone, and then there's a sync purchases or restore purchases button, and you just click that. And let's say you bought an expansion set like Colony Wars on the iPad.
Yeah.
Then you'll also have Colony Wars on your Android phone, and you'll be able to start a game on your Android phone. And then at any point, you can switch over to playing it on your iPad, or if you download Star Realms on Steam, you could also continue the game on your computer. So basically, the server knows what moves you've made, and you can log into the game from any device, and it will pick up the game where you left off. And so, so that's a really nifty feature. If your only issue is if you're sharing that account with multiple people, you could mess each other up taking turns on different devices. But as long as you each have your own account, you can log in on any device you want to.
Oh boy, and I don't know how this next question is going to go down, because usually I'm talking to people who didn't create the application. So if you were if you had the rights to the application, and I guess you do or whatnot, what would you, or if you had to go back and make it again, what would be one thing you would do to make it better?
So we're super happy with this the Star Realms app, but we are constantly improving it. So for example, we recently had an update where we added the ability to have favorite players. People had wanted a friends list, the ability to re-challenge someone without having to remember their username and type it in. And the app didn't have that for a long time, and now it does. So now you can favorite an opponent and challenge those guys again. We really want to have. We have a lot of Star Realms tournaments are run through the app by third-party groups like the Board Game Geek Star Realms fans who run tournaments. There's a bunch of places that run tournaments for Star Realms using the app, and we definitely want to have the ability to have tournaments and leagues that take place within the app itself, and so that's something we're working on for the future. So. We're never done with the app. We're constantly working on it and improving it. So we have an ongoing list of things that we wish the app could do, and we are we're constantly prioritizing those and adding those applications in. And we also have a app for Epic Card Game, which is a strategy card game that plays like a Magic the Gathering or a Hearthstone style game, but one purchase gets you all the cards in the set. And that one is in alpha right now. And if you go to the White Wizard Games website and click on store, you can join the alpha for Epic Digital. That game is very fun to play online, but it is not as refined as Star Realms is because, of course, it's still an alpha. But we're looking to do early next year, we're looking for that game to go into beta and be available on Steam. And then in the summer, we'll have the full version available.
Okay, cool. Cool beans. We'll have to check that out. Now, let's see. Okay, great. That's awesome. So now, per se, somebody's still, hopefully they're still listening or whatnot. Have you been able to think of some kind of question, maybe whether you answered it before during the podcast, or if they can look it up online, that you can ask my guests, and then they can go ahead and send me an email, and I'll get the answer from you, and they can win a copy of Hero Realms with the character pack?
The question is to name the 5 character classes in Hero Realms. So these are the 5 classes that have character packs for Hero Realms. So send in the answer with those 5 classes, and you'll be eligible to win.
Oh, okay, cool, Bean. So there you go. And because seeing how we're the first podcast that you'll be talking about this game, your Sorcerer, as well as the new campaign deck for Hero Realms or whatnot, is there any inside dirt that you can give us on something that might be coming next from White Wizard Games?
Oh yeah, no, we don't have any spoilers for you on the future projects. We like to have things a little more refined before we announce them to the world. As you can see by how what Sorcerer looks like on the Kickstarter page.
Okay, no big deal. Cool beans. Well, we don't want to keep you forever, but mind us coming there to your hometown to stalk you. How would somebody go about finding, or at a con or whatnot, how would somebody go about finding out about you or White Wizard Games or stuff you might come up with later on?
Sure. Well, you can always we have a Facebook page. We've got a website, and while the Kickstarters are going on, I'm on the Kickstarter comments answering questions every day. So you can actually ask me questions directly on the Sorcerer Kickstarter right now on the comments page.
Okay, cool beans. And I want to say there is two different, when I tagged you guys on Facebook or whatnot, there's two different White Wizard pages, White Wizard game pages. There's one with 1,300 likes and then one with like 236. I imagine you guys are using the one with 1,300 likes. Is that correct?
That's probably correct. You can get all the details on all of our social media stuff from Debbie, so you can get
Okay.
down on our Facebook and Twitter and all of our other accounts.
Okay, we'll make sure we leave all those links in the show notes as well as especially the Sorcerer. But yeah, we wanted to thank you, Rob, especially for giving us the chance to have you on to talk about Sorcerer as being the first podcast. So thank you for coming to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We really appreciate it, Rob.
Thank you, and happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
You too. Thank you, Rob.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Today I'm joined by Game Relief, yours truly, and I'm Princess Leaf.
And what portion of the show is this?
Kickstarter Corner.
Okay, so we have to talk about a couple. Tell us about War Room.
4 different
Scenarios.
Eastern, Front,
Europe.
Europe, Pacific, Global allows for wide range of players is nice. Many seem to assume that it's only good for 4 to 6 players. Thanks.
But 2 to 6 players, or even 7 unofficially, if someone is willing to take on China as their player. All 4 scenarios can be played by just two players, though. And this is all about War Room, a Larry Harris game, and he's a renowned
Axes and Allies.
designer. And Nightingale Games, they present War Room, a deluxe global World War II board game for 2 to 6 players. They funded really quick, and now they're just going cruising for some stretch goals and whatnot. They got 24 days to go at the time you hear this, so they end the 8th of December. So check them out on the Kickstarters.
They have a bunch of backers.
Yeah, how many do they have?
1,351, and that's
53.
That's good because I think they just started.
Yeah, they didn't start too long ago, so that's awesome. Yeah, they have 24 days to go, and so we wanted to tell you about that. I'll have to play Axis and Allies sometime, and we have an interview coming up with them sometime before the end of their thing. We also have this one that's been going for a while.
Space
Corridor.
Battled Territory.
Or terrain, bringing you an all-plastic space corridor terrain set, ideal for a vast range of sci-fi 28mm war games. They got 25 days to go. They're at $5,135 out of a $45,796 goal. Hopefully they get it, but I'm not sure anymore.
Or maybe if they don't get it, maybe hopefully they'll refund.
Or relaunch, whatever you want to call it. And the next thing on Kickstarter Corner is Convergence. This is a fun one. It's a comic-themed card game.
A super-powered comic-themed battle card game about choosing a team and an objective to protect the city you love or hate.
Yeah, so this is cool. And it looks like some pretty cool people have backed it. Robert Dougherty from White Wizard Games, who we just had on the show as a backer, as well as Eduardo Baroff, who does Gaming with Edo. They're both backers on it. I guess I follow both of them. And they're at almost $9,000 out of a $19,500 goal. They have about 16 days to go.
It doesn't look like they're going to make it either.
Well, I hope they do. They got till the 1st of December, which is a Friday. So if you're on the Kickstarter, or if you want to just click on the show notes, go ahead and give them some support over there on Kickstarter Corner. And remember, if they don't fund, that your card won't be charged until the 1st of December when they do fund. So the more people they try to fund right now, or try to back it right now, the more likely they'll be able to fund. So go ahead and check them out on the Kickstarters. And this was reviewed by some great people. Joshua Baral, who is the Logan Chops reviews guy, as well as Michael Wright, who is known as the Unfiltered Gamer, as well as the Cardboard Stacker. They all reviewed it. And yeah, check it out over on the Kickstarters. And then what else do we got, Princess Leaf?
We got
Historical Conquest. Pause for a commercial break.
Gamers rejoice. Now you can compete in memorable battles and take a walk through history. Historical Conquest, The Journey Through Time, pits you against such iconic figures as the Knights Templar, Timur the Lame, Abraham Lincoln, and the dread pirate Blackbeard. The game board is set, and you are ready to play using the United States, Israel, Venezuela, and the entire world as your stomping grounds. Discover new lands with diverse people and history. Your journey through time begins at historicalconquest.com and doesn't end until you conquer the world.
Okay, we're back.
Yep, we're back. And now we have to tell you about
the cabin game table for Cordiella.
Or a cabinet game table from Carolina.
Game tables. A highly quality, solidly built cabins to hold your games with
with a reversible
table for gaming, dining, crafts, and more. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so look at that. It's like a desk, and then you can play games on it, or you can turn it over and do your homework. So that's really cool, and you can put your games up there, your books underneath. What else is going on?
Nobody wants to do homework when you're playing a game.
Yep, so don't give this to Princess Leaf. She may not ever do her homework. But anyways, check them out over on the Kickstarters, and we were featured, actually. We did a podcast. If you look at Monday's episode, we did a podcast where we had Jody and Clinton Black of Carolina Game Tables, who are also in charge of Pinnacle Entertainment Group, and they went ahead and were on our podcast, so check out that as well. There's still a free cookbook up for grabs, which you can win.
Doesn't look like they're going to make it either.
Well, they still have, let's not go about saying that. Let's not give people bad luck, Princess Leaf. They still have 12 days to go. So, yeah. So, hopefully they'll be able to make it. So, we'll go ahead and keep plugging them on the Kickstarters. Go ahead and check it out. And even if they would, either way, you can go ahead and share. And if they get enough shares and you pay $2, you can go ahead and get a free PDF. Well, it won't be free. It'll be $2, but you can get the PDF of Dinner and Dice. And like I said, check out Monday's episode, and you can win a free PDF. That's still up for grabs. Go listen to that episode and find out how. Now, what else do we got? Princess Leaf, we've got, let's see here. We've got random coping
chess. Add an element of storytelling and revere to chess. Make it accessible and
engaging in new ways. And they just barely funded. Look at that. How far over are they over their goal?
Like a few. They have 4.
Yeah, they're $4 over. So that's good. And they got 3 weeks to go. So check that over on the Kickstarters. And then I think we've got one more. We've forgotten for a little bit to say this one, but this is a fun one. It's called
Side Effects. Use drugs and therapy to treat your
psych
in this beautifully illustrated card game for 2 to 8 players.
Yeah, check this one out on the Kickstarters. They are way overfunded, $20,000 over their funding goal, and there's still about 3 weeks to go. They funded in under 10 hours. Check them out on the Kickstarters, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.